welcome to Anna's Kitchen. Today we're going to be making esquites, which is a Mexican food that's often found in street fairs and is served out of push carts. People normally eat them from cups on the go, but you can also eat them at home, especially on these chilly nights. Okay, so we're going to start with half a tablespoon of butter, and we're going to put it in a hot pan. So we're going to let this heat up, and I'm going to drop this in there. We're going to add 1 teaspoon of corn oil, which can also be vegetable oil if you don't have that on hand. You drop that in there. So as you can see, this is a serrano pepper. It's a bit thinner and longer than a jalapeno pepper, which you may be more familiar with. But these are found in most grocery stores these days, and you just look by the peppers and you should find them there. So we're going to start with half. You can add more if you like your food spicy, or less if you like it less spicy. You can also opt to take out the seeds if you have a very sensitive palate. We have the butter lightly bubbling, butter and oil, and we're going to add the serrano we've chopped. And we're just going to let this cook for about a minute. Now I'm going to add 2 cups of corn, plain kernels. You can also opt to shave it off actual ears of corn. But this is a good alternative, and that way you can cook this year-round. And so I'm going to add this to the pan. And the chiles are just starting to let up some smoke, which is a nice smell. Give that a good stir in the oil and the chile. And we're going to let this cook for 2 to 3 minutes. Just with the same heat level, so that it gathers some of that butter. Just let it sweat in the pan for a second. Now we're going to add a very special ingredient, which is called epazote. And this is actually a weed. It grows in the hills and sides of roads. It's harder to find in American groceries, but it is possible in the groceries that specialize in Latin American products. You can usually find dried epazote if you can't find fresh, although it's not as good. And another substitute for this recipe is cilantro if you're in a pinch, but that will change the flavor profile. I'm going to trim the leaves off the stems. We're going to put the stems on the side. And we're only going to use about a tablespoon for this amount of people, but obviously if you're doubling the recipe, you'd add more. And so we're going to chop these not too fine. So now our corn has been cooking. It's become a little more yellow, as you can see, and has let out some sugars into the pan. Now we're going to add 1 cup of liquid. It can be water. In this case we're using chicken stock because I had it on hand, thanks to my lovely husband. And it could also be vegetable stock or any kind of stock. Actually not beef, but vegetable or chicken. And that just gives it a little more body. And we're also going to add this epazote. I didn't use any extra salt because my chicken broth was actually quite salty, but you should plan on using about 1/4 teaspoon salt per 2 cups of corn. And you would add that when you add the chicken broth or the liquid and the epazote, so that it cooks in that salty broth. This is on medium-high heat. We've let it come to a light boil, and now actually now that it's all stirred in, we're gonna turn it down to medium-low, up to that flame, and we're gonna cover. I'm gonna cover completely. And we're going to let this cook for 12 to 14 minutes on a medium-low flame. I just set it for 13. And there you go. Hello again. So it's been cooking for almost 13 minutes now. The alarm is about to go off, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. So this is hot, so I'm using a cloth. And there we see our esquites. Turning off the stove, and you can let this sit in the pot for a few hours if you aren't ready to plate. But since we're ready to plate, I think we'll move to that. And here we have 2 bowls. I like to use white bowls because it lets the food shine. So now we're actually going to garnish them. We're going to use Mexican crema. If you don't have crema, you can also use mayonnaise. And then we're going to sprinkle some queso cotija, which is a crumbled cheese, sort of salty. And if you don't have cotija, you can also use queso fresco. And if you don't have queso fresco, you can use feta cheese, as long as it's crumbled. Any of those will be good substitutes. And then on top of that, I'm sprinkling this chile tajin, which is a dried red chile mixed with some acidic sort of a lime taste or citric acid and salt. If you don't have that, any kind of red dried chile would work. And now, the best part, the tasting. So, give it a good stir, mix in the nice crema. And I hope to see you soon when we can learn to do something new together.